Good evening. We're with the International Dyslexia Association Oregon branch. We're just waiting for our guest here. We want to thank you for tuning in, and we appreciate you giving us the opportunity to support this community during this time. The International Dyslexia Association Oregon branch is here to serve, and please feel free to reach out to us, contact us with any questions or any material that you might need or request that could be helpful. Please reach out to our branch. Hey, good evening. We're just waiting for our guest to join. Hey,
Sorry about that.
no apologies. No worries. Did everything okay?
Yeah, I just haven't done it from my phone before, so we'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's kind of what this whole time is about, right?
Yeah, exactly. Learning new skills.
Uh,
Okay, I think we're
uh,
good now.
awesome. Can you can hear me okay?
I can. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so
Great.
much.
Oh,
And
you're welcome.
thanks for joining tonight. For the audience, do you want to just go ahead and give yourself a brief introduction?
Sure. I'm Jackie. I am the founder of Lupine Experiential School. We're a small K-8 school in Vancouver, Washington, and this is our second year. And I've been teaching in progressive schools for about 20 years now.
Okay. So I had a question as I was learning about your story. What got you into education to begin with? Can we start like,
Sure. I loved school growing up. Like it was, um, I loved everything about it, even though I went to a more traditional public school with the cookie cutter art on Fridays and a lot of I remember the state testing that we did and I was just that kind of student that ate all that up. It's so funny because I'm as an educator, I try to do so many things the opposite of what my education was like. But I always loved school. I loved college. I loved middle school. Like it kind of hasn't mattered. I've loved being in the classroom and, I got my master's online and it was like the most boring thing ever where I was like, where are all the people? Like, where's the discussion? So I love that community feeling. I like being a part of a cohort or a classroom, and I really love networking and working with other educators. So
so you
yeah,
said something that really stuck out to me. You It sounds like you came from a traditional background, but that's not really your philosophy. Can you expand on that?
yeah. I went to a little teaching college in Montana and grew up in Montana. So I wasn't even really that aware of progressive or any non-traditional schools. Everybody went to the public school, and all my friends, we were together, from K through 12. But I had some really innovative and really progressive-minded professors in my college, and a couple of them really stood out in that one of my professors for early childhood had her son was ADHD, and she used to tell us stories all the time about him and his struggles in school, and yet how creative he was and how passionate he was. And and then I had another professor who didn't have children, but just really, I think, opened, I mean, isn't that what college is all about, right? Opened the
Right.
door to the rest of the world. And so I got really excited about what else was out there. So I sought a Montessori school as my student teaching placement, and it was the only kind of non-traditional school I could find at the time. And I loved a lot of what I saw there. And then my first job ended up being in a small progressive school in New York, and it was the right fit. I felt like if I went into public, and I've always kind of questioned this a little bit, but I didn't want to spend my career trying to fight the system. I wanted to just educate kids the way I felt they needed to be educated. And I didn't want to have to cut through the tape and, jump across all the extra hurdles in addition to teaching. I think teaching is a big enough task on its own.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's kind of where I went, and then my husband and I moved to Vancouver after being in New York for a couple of years, and we found another small progressive school, and it became my family away from my family, really. And I think it's that community that keeps me working really hard, even though there's not, necessarily the benefits or the So some of the other things that you might get working as hard as we do, but it's worth it.
Well, it's pretty awesome. I just to expand upon it a little bit, where does that like, and I know it comes, you talked about it from your experience or your passion within education, but it takes a special person to want to build those types of communities and do it over and over again because of the work that goes into it. Where does that come from with you? Like, is that always been?
That's a good question. I think it's what gives me my energy. It's what keeps me going. It's kind of how I fill and recharge is having engaging conversations with people and learning from the families that come to our school and from my colleagues. That part I really love. And I always have had, I would say, a group of people that I really connected to and bonded with, and moving, and teaching in different areas of the country. It's been great because you keep that community that you had and then you just kind of grow and expand. But
Sure.
being here for 20 years, has certainly um, made a big impact on how big that community has grown now in the Portland, Vancouver area. So I don't really know, but I mean, first of all, it's the kids.
Yeah.
Being around the kids is my favorite part. Even though I founded a school, I'm still teaching full time, and don't see leaving that position anytime soon. So, but they're the number one reason that we're there, and they make me laugh. They inspire me. And every year is the same, right? You get in. Hopefully, some of the same kids. We like to loop with our kids,
Mhm.
so we really get to know them quite well. And this is that time of year when it's the teacher's new year, and you just already the excitement's building, even though it's a different kind of year this year. But
Definitely. Well, we're with the International Dyslexia Association, we're with the Oregon branch, and right now
mhm.
on the line, Shelby's asking if you can tell us about your journey with students with dyslexia and how that process has gone.
Yeah, so I don't think that they mentioned dyslexia at all in my undergrad training, and I really didn't encounter and learn too much about it until I moved here. So I taught for a couple of years without maybe having a student or knowing for sure that I had a student. And then my first few years, I had small classes, but here it was very different. There, the people who seek out private school do it for a variety of ways. And I think I landed in a place where a lot of parents were really seeking for a different type of experience for their child, and often because maybe their child wasn't super successful in the traditional or public model that they were in. And so I had about almost half of my class was either on an IEP or, was diagnosed with a learning um, or some other kind of challenge that was making school and other places hard for them. And I feel like they became my first teacher in that journey. I
Wow.
had some great parents that knew a lot, and we just started to educate ourselves. I started to learn more about how to truly teach reading, and what kind of reading instruction works for all kids and not just some kids. I started to work really closely with we had a learning support specialist at the time, and she did a great job of, you know, getting us into some workshops and bringing, the latest educational reading to us and having these deep conversations and then truly collaborating. So she would come in and kind of help out in the classroom. And I learned so much from her as far as, what types of graphic organizers or which types of accommodations, we're going to really work for each of my kids and not just try to apply a blanket band-aid to,
Mm.
to the problem. So, and then it's just kind of grown and evolved. And I was lucky enough about 9 years ago to some parents funded two teachers to go to Denver, and we were trained in a program at the time that was called FAST. it's now changed its name to CR Success Learning, and it's a multisensory phonics, and includes reading, handwriting, and spelling as well. And it was transformational as far as having a unifying program for our like K through fourth grade, and having a consistent vocabulary that we all use, and just seeing the kids. It's one of my favorite stories is that it wasn't one of my dyslexic kids that loved the program so much. It was the kid that could spell anything that I put in front of him. But the routine, he loved the routine, and he loved the predictability and the structure. And then it was like it was his favorite part of the day, and he didn't even need it. But the kids who were dyslexic get a lot out of this program, and it's not necessarily always enough. A lot of our students still seek outside support and tutoring with Shelby specifically, who's just amazing with them. But it's been a breakthrough as far as really giving kids that foundational piece that they need. And Shelby and I sometimes laugh about it because sometimes the program is so good that some of the kids who were like, well, there's something going on, I'd like you to take a look at this child. And they'll be they'll trick us a little bit because the program has given them enough of a foundation that the alarms aren't going off quite as strongly as they might, right, in another situation. So we have to, really dive deeper, which is great, right? We have to really kind of unlock what's going on in that child's mind. So that's kind of been it, working with kids from, I've taught from first grade through sixth grade. So really seeing how it impacts kids at different times in their journey, and how best I can be their advocate and, their coach and, excuse me, just, helping them find their passions too and their strengths so that they can build on those. As much as possible so that they're not just always feeling like school is hard.
It's pretty remarkable to come from a background of not having been taught dyslexia, about the word dyslexia when you're in undergrad training to become a teacher, to then creating a universal system that's working for all students. And developing that philosophy that's clearly working, and where would you like to see things go from here, or what would be do you have a vision forward, or?
Well, I always think there's more that we can do. So I would love to see the legislation that's starting now, right, to really I think in the next couple of years, public schools are going to have a big transformation, which is going to be so crucial. I would like to see all kids getting, what we're trying to provide in our little nook, because we serve a few students, but really this is something that every child needs. So helping to ensure that we can, make this platform accessible and to everybody. So
that's awesome. Well, for the people online who are maybe parents or teachers that are homeschooling right now or dealing with COVID and doing the online things, do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, I think first of all, listen to your kids and your students and see what's working for them. Work with each other to, really, if your kid is a very kinesthetic learner, for example, there's so much that you can do with body movement. And, the program we use has them using these tiles and they're pulling them down and they're moving them. And there's clapping and there's singing and there's rhymes. And, there's just so many potential ways to tap in and unlock, what's going on in there, or to appeal to a child's interests. So that would be my biggest piece of advice, is find out, what excites your child or your student, and really try to find that roadway in, and keep at it. It's not easy. Even with some of my students who I was lucky enough to have 3 years and had this program, it was not a magic fix all. I mean, these children still had to work very hard. Um, and I had to stay strong and positive for them and not get frustrated when we're going through something, again,
Right.
and again, and try to keep celebrating their strengths, because that's what really helps move them through.
Well, Shelby's
Yeah.
saying it, Jackie, that you're amazing, focusing on students' gifts. Your students have such self-confidence and their strengths are celebrated, and that's probably something we need across the country and our world right now. So it's pretty remarkable what you're doing and the work that you're involved with. So we thank you from the International Dyslexia Association, because we believe that these universal systems are so key, and what you're doing is providing that opportunity for so many. With that, if you had a message to the world, or you had a message to teachers or parents or educators or students, what would it be?
That every child is capable and every child is brilliant, and that we need to celebrate them for who they are, and help them be who they want to be.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join us on a Monday night. I know you must be busy with everything going on, so we
Yeah.
appreciate you taking the time and making space for us.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. You have a great night.
Yeah. All right. You too. Take
Bye.
care.